class. Now let's go over last week's FRQ. Now, if you have yet to check out the video on how to complete these FRQ activities, the description box has a link bringing you to it. I recommend checking it out. It'll give you a good idea on how to properly write and format your FRQs. In the description box, you can also find a link to the FRQ scoring guidelines. This paper will give you a general idea of how each FRQ is scored, so you can use it to see how well you did. If you have yet to complete the FRQ on your own, I recommend doing so before watching. So anyways, let's take a look at the FRQ. While visiting Sigmund Freud, Stark underwent hypnosis in order to reveal unconscious mental activity. The hypnosis revealed past horrors from when Stark would be chased around the house by a vacuum. After the end of the hypnosis, Stark, visibly startled, jumped to consciousness. Angry with how he was treated by Freud, Stark has an attitude with Mr. Stedman for the rest of the day. So Part A is going to ask us to describe how each of the following concepts relates to Stark's experience meeting Sigmund Freud. And with following our SODA's acronym and staying in order with the prompt, we will start with repressed memory. Now remember, while it's not necessarily required to define the term to score a point, I always recommend doing so. Showing you understand the term only helps with strengthening your application. So repressed memory is going to be a form of motivated forgetting that occurs at an unconscious level, meaning that the memory is paired with some form of anxious thought, leading to it being pushed into the brain's unconscious, blocked from all conscious awareness. Now, to earn the point, you have to apply this definition to the prompt. So how exactly did repressed memories relate to Stark's experience with Freud? Well, you could say that Freud's hypnosis revealed one of Stark's unconscious memories of being chased by a vacuum cleaner. Your response may be a bit different, but as long as you properly defined what a repressed memory is and applied it to Stark's experience with Freud, you'd get the point. So let's move on to our next point. Now remember, when following the SODA's acronym, we want to make sure we skip a line before moving on. Once we do that, we can get started with answering our second point on the two-factor theory. So just like before, we are going to start off by defining what exactly the two-factor theory is. The two-factor theory is just going to be a theory explaining our emotional response, stating that our emotional responses are the result of first experiencing some type of physiological arousal, such as an increased heart rate, accompanied by a cognitive label for that response. To earn a point here, you could say that after waking from his hypnosis, Stark experienced some type of physiological arousal, initiating the fight or flight response, and Stark came to the cognition that he is feeling this way because he is angry. So let's skip a line and move on to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is a limbic brain structure that, among other things, is responsible for regulating our emotions. To score a point here, all you have to do is state how Stark's hypothalamus will become more active as a result of his experience with the hypnosis, also leading to his anger. Point 4 is displacement. Displacement is going to be a Freudian defense mechanism where a person, or dog in this case, redirects a negative emotion from the original source to a less threatening one. To earn your point here, you can mention how Stark exhibited displacement when he was angry with Mr. Stedman for what Freud did, since Mr. Stedman can be seen as a less threatening source. Alright, so now on to Part B, which is going to ask us how might therapy help Stark get over his fears of the vacuum cleaner. Our first term in Part B is going to be positive reinforcement, which is just the introduction of a reinforcing stimulus following a behavior in order to make it more likely to be repeated. In order to score this point, all you have to do is provide some example on how positive reinforcement could be used on Stark to help him with his phobia. For example, you could say that a therapist could give Stark a treat every time he gets closer to a vacuum. The therapist could do this over and over again until Stark gets over his fear. And our last point is going to be cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is a therapeutic technique where the therapist attempts to identify irrational or maladaptive thought processes that cause behavioral issues and attempts to replace them with more rational thoughts. A cognitive behavioral therapist could speak with Stark, reassuring him that the vacuum cleaner will not hurt him and it's just a home cleaning device. So there you have it, our first FRQ. As simple as that. I'm sure you all did a great job. But if you still have any questions about any of the points on this FRQ, drop a comment in the comment section and I will do my absolute best to help you out. And just in time, there's the bell, I will see you all next class. Later.